For lesson 16, let's keep going as we solve more complicated equations. Remember, the 4 steps to solving equations are listed for you. By now, you should have written them on an index card. You should be making your own notes to make sense. If the way I'm explaining it doesn't make sense, write it down in your own words so that you know how to solve these equations. Now, what we're going to do with this one is we're going to write down the number of each step as we go, so you can see that sometimes you'll use more than one step to solve these equations. Example 1, x plus 7 equals 2 plus 3. First, I need to do step 1. I need to simplify this 2 plus 3. Those are like terms. They can be combined. Over on the left, I can't do anything, not like terms, x plus 7, but 2 plus 3 can be added. It's x plus 7 equals 5. Now, I want to get rid of any number that's added or subtracted on the side with the variable. I need to get rid of this plus 7. That's step 3. We didn't have to do 2. We're going to subtract 7 from both sides. And we will come up with x, because the 7 minus 7 will cancel. 5 minus 7 is going to be a negative 2. And my answer, x is equal to a negative 2. Example number 2, we need to combine the y terms on the left. That's step number 1, simplify each side. 10y minus y is really 10y minus 1y. If it's not listed, the coefficient is 1. So y, or 9y, is equal to 45. And now I'm skipping all the way down to step number 4. Divide by the coefficient of the y term. I'll divide by 9. The 9's will, of course, turn into cancel to 1s, and I'll have y is equal to 45 divided by 9, or 5. Example number 3, starting once again with step 1, I need to simplify on the right and on the left this time. 5y minus 9y is going to give me a negative 4y, and that's going to equal negative 14 plus a negative 14, which is the same as negative 14 minus 14, which would be negative 28. Now, I'm at step 4. I'm going to divide by the coefficient of y. This time the coefficient is negative, so I have to divide both sides by negative 4. Negative 4 divided by negative 4, positive 1. I'll have positive 1y. Negative 28 divided by negative 4, positive 7. Y is equal to 7. Example 4 is the exception to our rules. Let's put a star by it so I can show you, and I'm bringing it up a little early in our lesson just because you have a few problems that look like this. First, though, we do start at the same part in the equation solving. We have to simplify over here on the right side of our equation. Let's leave this fraction, which is y over 3, alone. And let's say 32 minus 52, that's going to be a negative number. It's going to equal negative 20. We would subtract and keep the sign of the larger. Now, I don't have something multiplied times the variable. I have something that's divided, the variable divided by a number. I'm going to do the opposite of division. This time, I'm going to multiply by whatever that is. In other words, I'll multiply by 3, and I'm going to put it over 1 since it's a fraction. Since I multiplied the left times 3, I'm going to have to multiply the right side of my equation times 3. Remember, whatever you do to one side of an equation, you must do the exact same thing to the other side. Otherwise, it doesn't stay equal. So what happens when I multiply these fractions? Well, these numbers actually will cancel out. Cross-reducing works for us here, and we'll get into this a little more later with fractions. And what do we have? We have y all alone is equal to negative 20 times 3, or negative 60. And y is then equal to negative 60. Like I said, that problem is a little bit different from what our normal problems are that we're working. Example number 5, we are going to simplify. Start with step number 1. We're going to simplify on each side. Negative 7 plus 10, I can combine those terms. I can say negative 7 plus 10 is going to give me a positive 3. And over here on the right, I have a 4x and a negative 3x. When I say 4x minus 3x, I have just x. And then I remember to bring down my minus 6. Next, I'm going to get rid of any number, step 3, that's added or subtracted to that variable term. I'll have to add 6 to get rid of a negative 6. And 3 plus 6 on the left is 9, and that's equal to just plain x. When I get here, I'm done. No coefficient of x to divide by this time. For problem number 6, I don't have to simplify on either side. I do have to get my variable term isolated. I need to get it all by itself. It has a negative 12 added or with it, so I'm going to add 12, which is step number 2 of my solving. I'm going to add 12 to both sides. I end up with 3y is equal to 0 plus 12, which is 12. And then I'll do step number 4, divide by the coefficient of the variable term. I'll divide by 3. Y is going to equal 12 divided by 3, or 4. All right, example number 7, 8, 9, and 10 should be fairly easy for you to work. If you want, you should probably stop the tape right now, work these 4 problems, and then come back and listen to the solutions. For example number 7, we're going to distribute multiplication over here on the left. We're going to say negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. Where are we? We're in first step 1, which says we have to distribute multiplication and or combine like terms. I still got to bring down my negative 2. Over here on the right, I can go ahead and combine these terms. A negative 8 and a negative 4 gives me negative 12 when I add those together. Now, on the left, I'm still not finished. I've got some terms that need combining, some like terms. So I'll do step number 1 again. I'll say a negative 2x. Negative 10 minus 2 is negative 12. And there was no work to be done over here on the right, so I just bring down my negative 12. Next, the step that I want to do is get rid of anything that's added to or subtracted from the variable term. In other words, this negative 12 needs to go. That's step number 3. And we're going to add 12 to both sides. To get rid of that, we'll end up with negative 2x equals 0. Negative 12 plus 12 cancel each other out. The final step, don't worry about the 0. Always look to the side with the variable and see what you do first. I've got to do step 4, divide by the coefficient of the variable. I'll divide both sides by negative 2. Well, on the left, I'm okay. That's just plain old x is equal to, and here I have 0 again in a division problem. 0 divided by negative 2 is 0. Divided by 2 is okay. Therefore, my answer is 0. X is therefore equal to 0. Number 8, I have to get my variables both on the same side. I have a y on the left and I have a 6y on the right. I want to work with the side that has the smaller number of y. Now you can do it the other way, but you'll end up dividing by a negative coefficient if you do, which is fine. It's just easier for me if I remember to work with the smaller number of variable. So I have this positive y over here on the left. I'm going to subtract y. Remember, it's a positive 1y, so I'm going to subtract 1y from both sides. You can write the coefficient in there if you want to. 1y minus y, those cancel. I have a negative 20 is now equal to 5y. Don't forget, don't lose the negative in front of the 20 when the term in front of it cancels out. Don't forget, okay? Next, I've got to do step number 4. Step number 4, divide by the coefficient. And the coefficient is 5. I divide both sides by 5. Y, when I do that, is equal to negative 20 divided by 5, or negative 4. And that is my answer to number 8. Okay, example number 9. I can't do anything on the right, on the left. Y minus 8, not like terms, but on the right I can. Let's just copy down y minus 8 and say combining negative 5 minus 1 gives me a negative 6. Next, I want to isolate, that was step number 1, by the way. I want to isolate this variable term. That's step number 3. I've got to get rid of any number that's added or subtracted. What I'm going to do is add 8 to both sides. Therefore, y all by itself is now equal to negative 6 plus 8, or positive 2. And that's my answer. Y is equal to 2. Example number 10, let's do some combining like terms. Step number 1, I've got an 8x and a negative 6x over here on the left. That gives me a positive 2x. Minus 4 I just bring down. On the right, I have 12 minus 22, which gives me a negative 10. Now, I want to isolate the variable term, which is step number 3. Get rid of anything that's added to my variable term or subtracted from. So I add 4 to both sides to get rid of a negative 4. And I end up with 2x equal a negative 6. Final step is number 4. Divide by the coefficient of the variable. That gives me an x, and it's equal to negative 6 divided by 2, or negative 3. And that would be my answer.